Neil. Thanks for your time. Should we just start with this question of legitimacy? What would you advise people like me and you, who consider ourselves to be British first and English and Scottish second, unionists, people who believe in this remarkable union of our United Kingdom, what would you advise them to do in Scotland if there is to be a second referendum, but Westminster's not, as said, it's not legal, it's just indicative? Should unionists boycott that referendum?
It's a very difficult question. I genuinely don't feel I have the requisite wisdom. I would only really speak for myself. I'm not really in the advice business, I suppose. I would boycott a wildcat referendum. I think otherwise to take part in it is to somehow make it legitimate by dint of taking part in it. I think that would be a self-fulfilling prophecy. I wouldn't vote. But it's a very difficult question. I don't think it's realistic. I think Nicola Sturgeon, First Minister, and her SNP are trapped on a hamster wheel. There's nothing they can do. They are a single issue party, and they have to keep promising, insisting upon, demanding one referendum after another because they exist to break up the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and they can't stop doing it. And another reason why they can't stop doing it is because if they don't try and focus everyone's attention on referendum and on the call for independence, then everyone inevitably looks at their track record, which is dismal across the board on education, on infrastructure, on health. Every measure shows the SNP to have been a disaster for Scotland. The SNP's control of Holyrood makes the devolution settlement a disaster for Scotland. I've personally have long since thought that talk of a referendum, pursuit of a referendum, is just pointless. It's not going to happen. And furthermore, even if by some wave of a magic wand a referendum did happen, the majority of Scots want to remain part of Britain. That has always been the case. It has never been otherwise, and I don't see any point in the near future when it will be any different.
And Neil, it seems to me at least that a lot of the talk about independence, when you talk about what it will mean to people, it can feel very pie in the sky and theoretical. But when I mentioned the border in my introduction there, and the idea of what's been seen as all one middle land, they used to call it the debatable lands, didn't they, as part of the same country. But now, you stop your car, you get out of your car, you have a look in the boot, just in case you're smuggling contraband cigarettes from England to Scotland or vice versa. The train, people going through checking papers between England and Scotland. That seems to crystallise it.
Well, yes, it's one of many things. It would be just, I think it'd be unthinkable for people, really. Yes, but border checks and the complications of all of that would be a major consideration. But then there's the currency. The SNP have never answered the question really meaningfully about what would actually happen in terms of a currency for an independent Scotland. Then there's the share of the national debt, the British debt, which I've seen estimated recently at £180 billion. An independent Scotland would have no means of dealing with and would presumably just have to walk away from, thereby making it a kind of an international money lending pariah. Who would lend money to the emergent Scottish nation? Because presumably they would just have walked away from any obligation they had to the national debt.